Hi,
Jordan
everybody.
Peterson has
Trigger
faced
warning.
significant criticism.
Xena speaks to him like a parent speaks to a child on the verge of a tantrum.
The episode was actually quite shocking to watch and has been widely regarded as a bit of a disaster.
Claims that he can no longer debate effectively or that he's somewhat lost his mind. Much of this backlash stems from his recent appearance on Jubilee. Because of this, I think it's time to change things up a bit and push back against some of the harsh criticism he has received. Where does this criticism come from? The core of it lies in the fact that Peterson is an educated man with a solid track record in public debates. He's long been seen as reasonable and intelligent debater. Yet in this particular debate, many thought he performed poorly. He appeared easily frustrated, even angry.
Sure, then let's go through the
Critics also targeted his speaking style, accusing him of constantly going off the main question or asking too many times the defined
Sure, you know
things.
many people who defined it that way.
But to be honest, I don't understand the level of shock surrounding his performance. In my view, it wasn't nearly as bad as people made it out to be. Sure, some arguments were
Would you
weak,
lie to like save your children?
I don't think lying would save them.
but others were perfectly reasonable. There was this one question that people were confused about.
What do you mean by believe? If
What's
you
a
believe
belief?
something, you stake your life on it.
What do you mean by that?
You live for it, and you die.
Many marked off this as an irrelevant detail, but if you look deeper in it, it actually made sense. If we put it in simpler terms, you believe that water is healthy for you and not poisonous, so you just drink it. This belief will make you stake your life on it because you are convinced that it will be healthy for you and not life-threatening. See, many arguments feel like they don't make any sense until you look closer. There were many more like this one. It wasn't a fantastic debate, but perhaps the outrage came exactly because of that fact that he wasn't excellent, that people expected the opposite. But that confuses me, because considering his background, I'm not surprised that he struggled. Peterson is not a specialist in religious debates. He has no formal education in theology or metaphysics. That alone would explain why he didn't perform exceptionally. Many people might disagree and argue that Peterson usually is effective even outside his area of expertise. And it's true. He's often delivered okay performances on unfamiliar topics. But in my opinion, his reputation as a great debater was largely built on the relatively simple topics that somewhat overlapped with his education. For example, his most iconic debate moments came when he spoke about the gender pay gap, the idea of multiple genders, and the so-called male crisis. Firstly, these are the topics that he explored for over a decade. They are tied closely to his field, psychology. He has said quite intelligent arguments about why men on average do make more money, or why some might feel like there are multiple genders, even if that's not true. These are observable physical issues that many people see in their day-to-day life. Many people have some knowledge about these issues and can logically discuss why these issues are the way they are. Plus, Peterson has an educational background that gives him a certain level of authority and knowledge in this field. But in contrast, religion and metaphysics are very different territories. These subjects are abstract and less commonly contemplated upon in people's day-to-day lives. Most people are more familiar with physical or social concepts than with metaphysical ideas. And that gives them more intuitive grounding for understanding and making arguments. For example, one can easily reason if the gender pay gap was real, the way people think it's real, then businesses would most likely only hire women to cut costs, or the two genders make more sense than many more, since that's what we see across the animal kingdom, male, female, or in rare cases, hermaphrodites. These are logical observations that people have noticed in their life. So yes, Peterson's strongest arguments came in the most popular debates. Those were also easier topics that aligned with his expertise. Religion is on the opposite end of this spectrum. Another key point, Peterson's public speaking style has always been centered around long-form storytelling. He has spent years delivering lectures at universities and events where he controls the pace and the structure. And he's used to preparing a story and then building a narrative that gradually ties all the pieces together into a finished puzzle. His books are written in the same way. You don't know where he is going until he is at the end. It's entertaining. That's why during debates he often appears to drift from the topic. It's not that he's lost, it's that his style is not short and direct. It's long and exploratory. He always starts with a random story. Now contrast that with Jubilee's format, a time-limited, fast-paced conversation with multiple participants, frequent interruptions, and change of topic. It's an entirely different environment. Given his natural style, of course he would seem out of place. Of course it would appear that he's wandering off topic. That doesn't mean that he has lost his ability to think. As for the weird problem of asking for definitions, yes, he does it frequently. That's because definitions matter. In debates, people often use the same words to mean completely different things. Clarifying terms is essential in any deep discussion. Maybe he overdid it here, but considering he was outside his comfort zone, it makes sense that he'd want to ask questions. Maybe about things that are common knowledge in religious debates, but when he asks them, it seems silly. For example, like the question, what do you mean by belief? One more reason people said that he had fallen off was his visible frustration. It's true, he seemed irritated, even angry. And yes, that's unfortunate. A person of this stature should ideally remain composed and professional. There's no excuse for that kind of emotional reaction. Maybe it's age, maybe it's the accumulated stress of constantly being in a conflict with the people that you are debating with. Or maybe he just had a bad day. I don't know. This behavior isn't justifiable. Still, I think people focused too much on that aspect and ignored what came after almost every debate. He shook hands, thanked the participants, and showed respect. The viral shorts don't show that part. I'm not some obsessed Peterson fan, although I do enjoy his compelling storytelling and respect his intelligence. But my goal here isn't to glorify him, but to show that the internet often latches onto a narrative and exaggerates it. Maybe there are signs that his mind is slipping. I haven't looked at all the evidence and all of his debates, but this particular debate, in my opinion, doesn't prove that. And that's my case.